With the Wright brothers and the first airline company, the world of aviation became quickly one of the most common mode of transportation in the world. However, with the 21st century, the world started to think about the future, the planet's future. How does present actions affect the future generation? Can our planet be saved and preserved for children and their children? My name is Tali Kanyani, and today I'll be talking about the environment, the dark side of aviation. My presentation will start as the industry up and downside will be introduced to you. Then the ACAO will be presented. At the end of the presentation, sustainable transport idea will be introduced. Our story began in 1903 as the Wright brothers took the sky for the first time, changing the world of aviation. In only a few centuries, the industry of aviation evolved into what we currently know, becoming one of the most used transportation on Earth. Attracting more and more people every second, air transport moved 2.2 billion passengers annually, a number that's expected to keep on growing. Next to this, aviation contributes to the economy of each nation, creating 32 million jobs globally, within which 5% of those are from the aviation itself. 7.5% of the world's GPA is from aviation. But if the industry impacted positively most of the nation's population and economy, there are some downsides to it, such as the environment. As a matter of fact, aviation creates 2 to 2.5% of the world's emission of CO2. So if you want to picture it, if you fly from New York to Europe, you would create 2 to 3 tons of CO2 per person. As a matter of fact, if aviation was a country, it would rank 7th in the green gas emissions. But if those numbers seem alarming, just think about it. By 2050, 1,300 international airports will be needed. And with those airports, green gas emission will be triple at a global scale. Among those come cloudiness, aerosol, reactive nitrogen. To this point, aviation was found to generate revenue and jobs all over the world. However, with its increasing use comes an important issue, the environment. In order to respond to this problem, agencies were created to regulate and ensure the efficient use of the world's space. Among those comes the International Civil Aviation Organization, the ACAO, whose headquarters is in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. It was created in 1954 and counted at the first 52 allied and neutral nations that aimed in charting global aviation course after World War II. And now count 185 nations. Those nations see international aviation as a way to create and preserve friendship and understanding among the nations and people of the world, but also a threat to global general security. And indeed, if the organization is to think about the communication and navigation system, and also the use of English among air traffic controller and pilots. Since the 1970s, the goal of ACAO is to create a better world, a world that will not affect too much the environment. Hence, the challenge here is to create a perfect balance between future growth within the industry and its impact on the environment. Its objective, hence, is to reduce the aviation's impact on the environment by limiting green gas emission. In order to do so, one of the goals was to reduce the current green gas emission of 2.5% to 2.2% until 2020, and then by 2% starting 2021 to 2050. In the US, in Canada, and Mexico, the goal is to become carbon neutral, while in Europe, it's to reduce by 10%. To help in achieving these goals, the standards are found in the Annex 16, in which Volume 1 talks about aircraft noises and Volume 2 about emissions. At the end of each year, the ACAO submits an environmental report about its progress and future goals to be achieved. Among the action taken by the organization, one can find 4 areas of actions: the state's action plans, sustainable alternative fuel, market-based measure in which the carbon emission calculator and offset are part of. Then comes the global operational goals. An example of what the ACAO is trying to achieve is the Rio 20, which was a united conference on sustainable development. This one was trying to respond to the current issues such as the access to sustainable energy, sustainable transport, poverty eradication, and sustainable development goals. At the end of this conference, ACAO defined this strong framework which are sustainable alternative fuel and technological tools that you can see above. But if aviation contributes to the economy and social of each nation, its downside is the environment. To respond to this, organizations such as the ACAO were created. The ACAO is trying to reduce a green gas emission by setting goals through standards. But are those goals achievable? Or are they just like dreams? That's what we're going to see. First of all, let's define what sustainable transport is. According to William Black, a sustainable transport is the transport that satisfies current transport and mobility needs without compromising the ability of future generations to meet these needs. We can see that aviation is not considered as a sustainable transport at its point through noises and a CO2 emission, which will affect future generations. Hence, the question is now, will the industry be ever eco-friendly, or are the ACAO goals, along with other nations, utopias? In order to see how aviation will look like in the future, the ACAO forecasted some numbers using 9 scenarios. These are found here. Here you can see 2 graphs, one that shows the fuel burn trends for international aviation, and here the CO2 emissions of those numbers for international aviation only. According to the organization, by 2010, 65% of the fuel consumption came from international aviation, and this number is expected to go all the way to 70% by 2050. In 2010, international aviation burned 142 megaton of fuel, which was responsible for 448 megaton of CO2. By 2050, this consumption is expected to be tripled, or 6 times this amount. As a matter of fact, starting 2020, international aviation is expected to consume about 216 to 239 megaton of fuel, which will result in about 750 CO2 emitted. Next to this, the organization also forecasted alternative fuel and its emission. And here you can see the demand. It found that 3% of the fuel consumption will be sustainable alternative fuel when it will start being given. However, demand is hard to forecast, which show that these numbers might not be what will happen. However, international aviation should see advance in fuel efficiency, but in order to achieve the 2% goal, it will have to have way more measures. But will alternative fuel be the change in aviation needs? In order to see so, let's see the analysis from Valerie Brown. According to her, the aviation has two threats: technology and politics. As a matter of fact, aviation needs technology in order to be more fuel efficiency. So the slower we create aircraft or fuel efficiency, the slower changes will be made. Next to this, if aviation created some biofuel, an alternative fuel, those are really expensive and not adopted by airlines because of their cost. Moreover, the organization, she showed that a disadvantage of aviation is that no low carbon or carbon technology would work for the industry itself. And if those biofuel are nice, they don't have the same energy as petrol-derived kerosene because they have a different hydrocarbon structure. And if they did have the same structure, they would create the same green gas emission, which will come back to the same. Hence, it limits on how much green gas can be reduced by. On a political scale, the ACAO capacity of creating an agreement among all the members will rest in the hands of the Environmental Protect Agency, the APA. And in order to make changes, a global political change will be needed. In Europe, the ATS, which is the emission trading system, was implemented in 2005. And its first phase was to focus on CO2 emission from power generator and energy intensive sector from 2005 to 2007. Then the organization focus moved to the Kyoto Protocol from 2008 to 2012, and then from 2013 to 2020, in covering more than 11,000 industrial plants in 31 industry and involving a single white cap on emission of action allowance. In order to do so and preserving the environment, a fee of €100 is inflicted to the people that pass that are flying on top of the European airspace. The fee of €100 per ton of CO2 emitted if no permits are given to meet this amount. If the US and China refuse to pay it, by 2016, the ACAO meeting is supposed to address this need. Moreover, the ACAO actions are expected to be coordinated with the APA. So if the APA comes up with an action, then the world will follow. In conclusion, as men took the sky and aviation became the most common form of transportation, the importance of balancing the future growth within the industry and its impact on the environment is more and more necessary. If aviation contributes to the social and economy of each nation, it is currently responsible for 2 to 2.5% of the world's CO2 emission. At global level, this issue is taken care of by agencies such as the ACAO, who set goals of reducing CO2 considerably by 2050. If the agency was successful in lowering the impact on the ozone layer, there are still many points that need to be worked on, such as a better and more affordable fuel, or simply the creation of new technologies According to the organization forecast and Valerie's analysis, green gas emissions are expected to be tripled by 2050. And if no changes are made in technologies and political constraints, the constraint keeps on blocking any advances. Hence, the question is about the ability of achieving those goals without harming the nation's economy and people. In the end, in order to be a sustainable transport, aviation will have to be united and willing to act. Because when words are spoken, action needs to be taken. Now, if the industry will reach this utopia, only time knows. This is it. This is the end. Thank you. My work cited.